unmute. We are live on Facebook. I'm looking. Do you see us?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Everything Horses and More podcast. Yay! There we go. So yeah, we just reached 50 episodes, everybody. And we should be close to 8,000 downloads. We're well over 7,500, and that was weeks ago. So we're pretty excited here. We're thinking maybe we might get 9,000 or 10,000 by the end of this year. Woo! All right. Well, welcome back. Today is Wednesday, the second day of our weekly 2-day podcast series, where we're going to be talking today, continuing on miscellaneous horse training and instruction, mostly horse training, the good, the bad, and the wrong. And so yesterday, you know, I've got my lovely co-host here, Sabrina. So hi, Sabrina. She's here to take, she's here to take comments, questions. Feel free to leave as many comments as you want, but she's here for questions. And so we have a couple of questions that came in since yesterday's podcast I'm going to talk about too. So I won't do a lot of reading today. Please listen to yesterday because I really dived in deep about the principles of training, specifically how I think and what my method is all about and what I teach all of you when you join. You come to school with me. It's really important. And it gives you guys, hopefully, a free pass, for the lack of a better word, on going slow and taking your time, because there's so much, as I always say, bullshit and propaganda out there about training and instruction. And, you know, people are being rushed all the time with both learning to train their own horses and taking instruction. I'm not sure if most of the people out there that are giving the instruction and training really know what the hell they're doing. So that could be why they're screwing so many people up. But some of them also don't want to give you too much information because it's their way of keeping you coming back, which I think is wrong too. And I've experienced both. And especially the more popular methods in training, they definitely are luring you in and seducing you with all this wonderful mainstream language and buzzwords and connection. And like I've said before, I've been probably the first person that came out with connection and communication 15 years ago. And then I came out as a clinician at the Horse World Expos in 2009, and nobody was using that language. And so it's very interesting you know, I know what it's all about in advertising and marketing. You know, you steal each other's stuff all the time. I don't, but it happens all the time. You steal each other's stuff all the time and you try to make it your own. But it's one thing to talk the talk, bullshit walks, or walk the walk. And I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. So you got to show it. It's one thing to say it and it's another to show it. So what's your portfolio? What are your examples of what you're talking about? So anyway, that's just about training. And then yesterday we segued in after the principles of training to problem horses, where I mentioned there really are no problem horses. It's people creating the problems, but we're just going to call it problem horses, turning problems into positive experiences. And that's when we started showing some of the videos yesterday. We started off with bitless bridles and training from a very young blogger who doesn't know what she's really talking about. And she even states that. But I think that that's really irresponsible, as I said yesterday, because you have a huge responsibility when you go public to, you know, what you say and how you act. You have a huge responsibility to your viewers. And so whatever you put out there, man, you gotta be smart about this. You just can't take a free pass and go, whoops, well, I really don't know what I'm talking about, but this is what collection's all about. Here, the way the horse's headset is. And that has nothing to do with collection. So she really should take a different approach. Then we started with the first video yesterday, which was a hard to saddle horse. So 3 of the videos that we're going to show today are from the same guy. I've chosen this guy before in some of my debunking, but this guy, you know, again, this is about education and training your eye. And I realized that my audience is not going to want to work this way. So it's not like I'm trying to change who you all are. Nonetheless, this type of training, if you want to call it that, is so widely used. And it's just really, really sad. And that's why I've chosen all of these videos this month from other professionals out there teaching their method, because I don't agree with it. And I'm teaching and showing you guys why I don't agree with it. And it's just really sad. It's absolutely horrifying for the horse that they have to go through this type of familiarization, because it's not training and it's not an education. They just have to learn how to tolerate and become familiar with this type of abuse. Yep, that's what it is. Every time we kick our horses and constantly squeeze them with their legs and yank on their faces and yank on their mouths, use spurs, use whips to punish them, make them do things, it is abuse. Would you do that to your dog? Would you do that to your cat? Would you do that to your child? And if you do, you're sick. So there we go. It's abuse. Why do we do it to these big, beautiful animals? Because they're bigger than us. And that's the way we've been taught to handle them, because they're just a bunch of stupid livestock. So a couple of you did send me links via email to a couple of other trainers. One of them is off the chart abusive, and we are not going to be including any video screen sharing of this guy. It's just disgusting. And it's not that I'm not here to support the young blogger that is going out of her way to bring awareness to his abuse. She's doing a phenomenal job, this young blogger. We all need to step up. And she's got a couple of other videos on her YouTube channel. I can't remember. Just email Sabrina or me at dalofhorsemanship.com and we'll send you guys her channel. Raleigh something. She's amazing, young girl, and she is out there. And she doesn't spare anything. I mean, she's like, F this, hate you, man. You are awful. And she's got like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. You go, girl. And she's an equestrian. And she's bringing a lot of attention to, you know, same stuff I'm talking about. She just has a much larger following. And so she is also bringing up some of the FEI trainers. One guy just recently got banned, disqualified and banned in October. He's a show jumper. He's an eventer. I can't remember his name, but he just got banned because they found that he was electrocuting his horses during competition to jump higher.
Wow, that's...
Yep, he was electrocuting. They found
crazy.
it. And so she has this one episode, because I was investigating her a little bit this morning because one of my students sent her this link to this really abusive guy that she was blowing up, thank God. And anyway, so she was going into I can't remember this guy. I mean, it's October something 2020, and he's a, you know, FEI eventer and stadium jumper. And so they just disqualified him or yanked him for a year or something like that. But he's, you know, known to run these horses into the ground. You know, they're exhausted and just mentally what's wrong with these people. And then, of course, she brought up an older woman back in 2008. She's dead now. I remember this circulating, you know, coming back up not too long ago, a German FEI trainer and competitor who is one of the cruelest I've ever seen, you know, between the horses having bloody pasterns to bloody sides and swollen sides and lacerations from hundreds of whips and beatings during, and then you've got all the filming. She was dumb enough, or should I say arrogant enough, that she had, you know, cameras, safety cameras in her barn. And so the cameras caught all of this abuse, and she was finally turned in and banned for any animal activity, training, ownership in Germany for like a year and a half. Well, she moved to Denmark, and people were still sending their horses to her, and she was known for this abuse. And by the grace of God, it's on film, she is abusing a horse out in an open field, riding it with another rider, riding another horse. And the horse throws her. She goes to the ground, but the horse doesn't run away. Instead, it stays there, but you can tell it's petrified. And she goes to grab it, and it swings around, double barrels, kicks her precisely in the head and kills her. Isn't that a shame? So yeah, I heard about that years ago. So yeah, this stuff is, we do need to stand up. We really do need to stand up and say things. And I'm so glad that Karen sent me that link to her YouTube channel, because it just gives me more ammo to talk about how we all need to do a better job being responsible, just to stand up for this stuff. I mean, guys, I get emails almost on a daily basis. It might only be one, or then they come in 5 a day from people all over the world that see my approach on YouTube. And I know my channel's not that big, but I couldn't imagine getting that much bigger and getting the influx of emails, because I spend hours a day personally responding to all of these people. I don't shove them to anybody else. But the point I'm making is, for the last 10 years, I mean, people email me all the time with the horror that they see. It rescues. I got an email from a student of mine this week. So she's a volunteer, and she would love to be able to teach my work, but they're not open to it. And she's a volunteer at a horse equine rescue, not a sanctuary, but a rescue. And here comes a farrier that just, you know, you can already tell by his energy and his lack of attention to the horse, he's just coming in to do his job. And this young horse, who was a rescue, who was already fearful, obviously, is now really fearful of and new to the rescue. So she's really fearful of this farrier's energy and the lack of attention, or trying to connect, even caring where this horse, how this horse is feeling about this guy. And the guy obviously doesn't want to be there. He's probably doing it pro bono, which is wonderful, but don't do it if you're going to have an attitude like that. So the horse won't give him his feet, and it keeps shying away from him. So he asks the owner to go get a stud chain. And a stud chain is basically a lead rope with a chain around it. So they put this stud chain around this horse's nose, and the next time it doesn't give its hoof, they yank and pop on it, which most of us have seen, and the horse rears and pop again, and then the horse stands still. So the horse learns through fear, intimidation, tolerance, that it can't, can't do anything, can't say anything, can't express itself. And so this is going on all the time and in so many forms. And the videos that I showed you guys, the screen sharing, it was last week, of the riding lessons and the training. I mean, to me, that's horrific. And this person has over 100,000 subscribers on her YouTube channel. She's an international competitor and spokesperson and trainer. And it blows my mind that you would, put your student and your horses through that type of instruction, for the lack of a better word. So I'm not going to show this one video from Karen, because it is so horrific and abusive. It's just horrible. Basically, this so-called trainer, who is a definite, I don't know where he lives. She calls him a redneck, the blogger. I'm not here to call people names like that. It doesn't, whatever, but he might be down in, rednecks are usually what, in Georgia or Tennessee or something. Yes, so kind of looks, kind of looks, Sabrina's like, kind of looks like the territory. He's got over 11,000 people on his Facebook page. These people are sending their horses and mules to him. Well, he breaks their legs. He punches them in the face. He lassos them like I told you yesterday, and gets the hind end of the leg and basically tortures them, like moves them around, and he gets his jollies off on exhausting these. There's video after video that this blogger has of his where these mules are falling down in the middle of the woods and they're breathing so heavy and they won't get up. And one of them has a broken leg and lacerations all over because they're going through thick muds. That's why I'm thinking it's Georgia, Tennessee, maybe. You know, punching them. There's a short, like 5-second clip of him riding the one mule in a small round pen, cantering it. So all you see is him coming towards the camera that his dipshit friend is holding, because you can hear the dipshit laughing. So you hear women and men laughing to all these videos of his with the torture that he does to little minis. He actually is on a mini, and the mini's trying to run away with them, and he runs it into the side of the round pen panel.
Oh my gosh.
He puts the saddle up on the neck of another mule and talks about how he trains them to tolerate anything. So he's riding it on the withers. This guy's probably 200 and some pounds. He's riding this mule on the withers towards the neck. But anyway, so this quick 5-second clip is where we think we hear the snap of the leg. Yeah, she even says it, the blogger. So you see him cantering this mule in a small round pen towards you, and then you hear this snap and the mule falls down. And the mule's not sweaty, so it doesn't look like he's been running the mule. So my first thought was the mule was exhausted, right? Because I've seen so many of these videos of his on her video. But no, the mule, no sweat, but the mule is breathing so heavy because it's in so much pain. And all he says as the mule's on top of him because it won't get up is, oh, let me get my hat here. I mean, wow. So you know this shit's going on in the backwoods and everywhere. He's got 11,000 supporters and then some. So that is like one hell of an extreme. My stomach's upset just talking about it. And then one of my other followers sent a video to, I looked this guy up. I think he's from France, but he works in, was it Claudine or Claudia that sent it?
Claudine.
Claudine. He's from France, but he works in, it's a Latin country, I can't think. And honestly, I didn't think this guy was that bad. He's rough. Yeah, he goes about it totally different than we would. But he pets the horse and he does go slow. And I didn't see any, when you compare it to this guy or you compare it to the videos we're about to watch, how rough they are. And they instill, is that whole energy. It's not just the actions, it's the intention that they bring into it. And you can see it in the videos we're going to show today. And then in this extreme case of abuse with these mules. You know, this guy is laughing. He's getting his freaking jollies off on this shit. And the reason why he punched the one mule repeatedly in the face is because you're I know. How do you spell it?
Uruguay.
Yeah, that country. I can't say it right now. I know. But the guy, when he's punching the mule in the face, it's because the mule kicked him. He got him good in the stomach because he's trying to tie him up and he's just being a prick. He's being such a prick to this mule, like taunting him to get, you know, it's just horrible. So yeah, Claudine, the one guy, you know, God love you, you're a gentle, beautiful soul. And he could have a really, even a more softer approach, but I didn't see, you know, the horse gradually got better. Sure, we don't want to see a horse feel like it's got a buck when it gets a saddle on for the first time. And honestly, it has happened to me. I've done my method with certain horses 30, 60 days later, and they still can't handle a saddle. And they'll start off at a walk and then they'll just explode and go into this bucking rampage. You know, you don't know everything. And I'm, you know, taking a look at that one video and I'm like, well, he's got a softer approach. He pets the horse constantly. He's got a much softer body language compared to all these other guys. And so, you know, there's some pluses to him. And then I went to his Facebook page and did a little bit more investigation, because if I'm going to talk about somebody, I want to have as much facts as I possibly can. I just don't want to be, blowing somebody up and not really have everything. And, he makes fun of himself and he doesn't take himself too seriously. And I think, he ended up riding the horse and the horse wasn't bucking, and you do see the horse relaxing, you do see positive changes. So, but it is rough, some of it's, I wouldn't do it that way. And if the horse was bucking, I've shut that down before. And then sometimes I've had to let him figure it out. And it's scary, because then you go to get on that horse. Finally, you get permission to get on, and they're like, and I don't get on bareback on horses like that. It's like, okay, I'm going to keep my Western saddle on you, and you can just feel the tightness underneath of them. Yeah, I don't want to do it anymore. There's no way. So thank you, ladies, for sending those videos. And that's my take on it. Before we show the videos, we have a couple of questions here. And one of them is from a viewer who looked at last week's podcast and had a question on the YouTube, my YouTube channel. So I asked her to email me, and she just did this morning. So she's a new rider, Nina. Hi, Nina. And I told her I would answer her question today. She's 32, just started riding a year and a half ago, and it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. I've stumbled upon your videos and love how you treat the horse and how you approach them and how much they love you. I'm currently saving money to buy your lifetime membership. Question: How does one start to ride without a bridle? P.S. I still don't gallop. Is it safe for me to start to ride without a bridle? Thank you so much, and please continue talking as much as you do. It's very worth it. Thank you, Nina. And she took my "May you always be one with your horse." Thank you. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about learning how to ride bridleless, completely without a bridle. You can take the long way, and the long way is total relationship and learning truly how to work with the horse and not against the horse, so that the horse never learns resistance. Horses have natural resistance. We all do. And so a horse, being a prey animal, is naturally, instinctively going to pull away from any kind of pressure, because when a predator goes to get them, they know where to get them. And it's either the stifle, which is above the hock, any tender places, the right here, the bottom underneath of the throat, or right at the pole. So here's the pole again. Why do so many horses, all horses, naturally have resistance to pressure at the pole, especially the pole? And we need them to not feel threatened. I talk about this in my mastery membership program. I get into this, why horses instinctively have a hard time with us teaching them to lead. And then, the leading should become or transfer over into the riding. Everything you do should transfer over into the riding, and not only prepare for the riding in every way, prepare the horse physically, mentally, and emotionally, but also transfer over so that it's easy for the horse to understand. And so when you look at it like this, you can take a long time, trying to avoid hitting that resistance. But the horse, so, if you don't ride with a bridle, there's no pressure at the pole, right? And I have gotten on quite a few young horses that have come to me the first day of work with them. And in my spirituality DVD and course, I show you guys, well, it's my round pen. Actually, it's my round pen DVD. It's not the spirituality course, sorry. In my round pen DVD, I show you a young 3-year-old Arabian named Legacy, and where she comes to the pedestal, and, for all the right reasons, for a relationship, for scratches, for mutual bonding, and has no issue with me getting on. I have nothing on her, no neck rope, nothing, getting on and getting off, getting on. Because everything that I had been doing on the ground with her, it was no different when I got on her. It was no different. The same touch, the same scratches, the same voice. She just had this lump of weight on her. I was still hugging her. I was still giving her, scratching her and hugging her the same way when I got on her. So it didn't feel any different. It was never a threat. So yeah, there you go. And then you can learn from there with the neck rope or the mane. You've got to still kind of learn how to work with the horse, meaning when the horse is going to stand there forever, you're going to take your time until it's the horse's decision to walk off. And then you just go with what happens if the horse doesn't, forgets about you, and it's young, and it's typical for a young horse to want to go play and say, oops, I forgot you're on my back, and take off. So you have to be the one to decide if that's the approach you want to take, which is really beautiful and very slow. And if you are going to ride an older horse, they come with tons of learned behaviors and experiences that are negative. So, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend, unless you're going to be starting a young horse yourself, in doing it in kind of like the Native American way here in the United States, like I just talked about with legacy. Unless you're going to do it that way, I don't recommend you, trying it with an older horse that has had horrible training or no training, really. What is training? Training is an education. Most horses don't even get that. Okay, so that's why in my mastery program, you're learning how to bond with your horse and connect and communicate with them, and mostly undo so many of the things that are done to our horses, so that we can bring them back to a state of wholeness, a trust and confidence in us. And we also are developed so that we are more attuned to our horse and paying attention and realizing that we can always stop what we're doing or get off. We don't have to keep going and pushing and fighting. And we don't want to do that. And sometimes, often unfortunately, with our older horses, because of their negative experiences, there is a fight. It's not a power struggle fight, though. Like you'll see with all these other assholes I'm showing you this month. It's not a power struggle fight where you're going, it's going to be my way or no way. The fight is the horse's response and reaction to fear. And so often you can't walk away from that. Sometimes you need to, and sometimes you need to stay in that horse's fight, that self-preservation mode, to prove to them that you're not part of that fight, but you're also not going to walk away. And that's part of the breakthrough that I talk about in the Mastery membership, because I know, because I've worked with so many horses, that most of us, 98% of us we're going to have those fights. But it's not the same fight where it's a power struggle. It's not the kind of fight I'm talking about. It's a fight because the horse thinks it has to go there. Okay, that's what it's used to. And how do you deal with that? There's many different strategies. You don't always have to stay in that fight with them. Sometimes you do, though. Sometimes you got to hold their hand. Sometimes you got to be there when they come out on the other side and realize you didn't create the fight. You're not here to fight, but you're still here. And they chose the fight because of a trigger, because of your energy, because of the whip. They're scared of the whip. I mean, there's so many triggers out there, unfortunately. So for Nina and so many other people that write in with these questions, how do you start to ride without a bridle? There's really, it's black and white. There's two ways. You can take the softest, gentlest path of least resistance, but when you do, you've got to have the right horse. And for most of us, we can't start out with young horses, and we don't have a roadmap. Now you do. You've got the mastery program, but most of us inherit horses with all these triggers. So you've got to come into it and break through all of that and really earn their trust and have an ability to stay connected so that you can have a conversation. Because without connection, your horse goes into sympathetic mode, which is instincts, which is the survival mode. So when connection's broken, horse isn't thinking about you anymore. Horse isn't considering you, and the horse is totally in survival mode. Or you could also have a younger horse that's just immature and is like, oh, there you, whoop, squirrel. I'm ready to go play now. I forgot about you. I'm ready to go play. So, you know, there's a lot of variables here to consider. When you look at some of the younger girls that have done a beautiful job on YouTube showing their bridleless riding on the beach and all the cool stuff and tricks they do with their horses, you've got to spend some time researching them because they've spent years to get there. None of this happened overnight. And either it's beautiful. Yeah.
I thought it was overnight.
I know. It's exactly.
Man, that's the balloon.
and they've gotten so much success, you know, with the final product of their horse and all that they've been showing on YouTube, that now they actually, you know, they're out there training people to get this with their horses. They're young though. So as I always say, I don't want to be learning from anyone 35 or younger. I don't. You need a lot of experience with horses because to have the wisdom that it deserves to work with horses and develop them correctly, that means you have to work with thousands of horses, you guys. It's not just hundreds, and it's not just one, obviously. So I give those young girls a shitload of credit, keep moving forward, but just know that that took a long time. And they've done a great job, you know, doing a chronological, you know, story of the whole process of the years that it took, whether it was a baby or a lot of them inherited older horses too, that they had to restart. So another question, moving on to Sarah, this was last week as well with the riding and instruction. Sarah's was, Caroline, I have a question. I'm a huge believer, she's also one of my students, of the relationship you can create with your horse through this method. So why are people trying to fix the problem with a problem? I loved that. Shouldn't they be taking a step back to work on the relationship? And doesn't this relationship help the horse trust you in any situation? I'm getting mixed messages and I'm confused. So Sarah's young, she's my youngest member. And I bring up age because she's at the age where we all lose our innocence when we, you know, step into adulthood. Unfortunately, it's the rite of passage into adulthood. And with that comes, you start to lose your naiveness and your innocence and your belief as a young child that everything's good. And so that's where, I know Sarah well, that's where Sarah's getting confused and mixed messages because she wants to believe that, right? That, you know, why can't it all be good? And she's now an ardent student of my mastery membership, but she's been following me for years and then finally became a student. And it's sad and it's horrifying and it's heartbreaking. And we all are there. And so my response was, you know, hi, Sarah, great question. It has to do with two things, mindset and ego. So many trainers, instructors still train, I hate using that word, abuse, if you want to call it that, through force and abuse. And abuse includes when we exhaust them, confuse the horse, and punish them with spurs and banging on their mouths with bits. So abuse just isn't, you know, hitting the horse flat out and kicking them and whipping them. I mean, abuse is how we handle them and how we think about them and what kind of intention, that energy that we bring. Horse can feel all of that. Yes, the relationship is everything to training and developing the level of trust and confidence needed for your horse's education to be easy and mutually rewarding for both. But then ego comes into play when the human has to prove something, like prove to their student or their audience that they know what's going on, and if the horse doesn't do what they ask, they make it happen. They are the ones that never question themselves, and the horse is a means to an end, meaning how the horse looks or behaves is all a reflection of them. So if the horse looks good and has great pedigree and behaves well and shows well, then that makes them look good, just like jewelry, fancy cars, and big homes do, and fancy clothes, right? It's all about status. If the horse doesn't look good or do it right, they embarrass the trainer. So the horse gets abused through tougher treatments, harder work, physical and mental abuse. What's confusing is when these types of people use language that includes nice and gentle words when they talk about their horse, and then they manhandle it. It's no different than saying, oh, I love you, pop. I've seen that. I've seen, oh, I love my horse. Smack, stop moving around. The minute I've seen that in my barn, and I have, out you go. And the only reason why I've ever seen that is because twice I've had to be a boarding barn to start my business. When I first started my business, I was a small boarding barn. And then I didn't see that. But the second time when I moved down here to Florida and I got my place up Lions down here, I left a really successful business. I was burnt out in Pennsylvania, moved down here because I was going to travel for 2 years and moved down here for the love of my life. It's all good. But I had to start all over again. And so I needed boarders, and I had a massive place at the old place, 30-stall barn, 50 acres on hundreds of beautiful acres to ride on. So yeah, that first year was rough and and interesting too. It was good education for me because I had shielded myself. I had a small boarding barn in Maryland when I started, and it transferred over to Pennsylvania. But my girls and I picked and chose who came to us. When I came down here, I was pretty desperate to, pick up and start making some money. And 'cause I had bills, right? I had horses and whatnot. So I took what I could, and I was like, wow, I never allowed myself to be in this type of situation. I've heard about this, but now I get to see it. And so, wow, it was gross. So I think that's what's confusing for a lot of us is we want to think the best in people, and it often blinds us. It really does blind us. I really do mean that, you guys. And I'm not saying that you need to become tainted or hardened. Try and find a balance in everything, so you don't go from one extreme to the other. But I do see a lot of my audience, the people that are interested in my work, you have to kind of do a reality check. You're attracted to my work for all the right reasons. And, I'm profiling because that's also part of what I do as a marketing person, to see the segments of my audience, whether it's age, whatever. But there's nothing wrong with profiling as long as you do it in a good way. But the profile I see predominantly in my audience is, sure, you want a gentler, softer way of doing things. And if that's the truth, and I do believe that's the truth, then why weren't you looking for this 20 years ago? Because my audience is mostly between the ages of 40 and 65. Why weren't you doing this years ago? Why did you put up with the shit? So to me, that's a little confusing in mixed messages. I have a nemesis, somebody I met when I was first coming out as a clinician in PA, and she's still in PA, and she was coming out too as a clinician. And I call her nemesis because, and yeah, you don't want to get me started. Sabrina knows who it is, of course. And, she knows who this FEI eventer is that got suspended in October because she was also had aspirations of becoming that successful in the show jumper world. Before, as she puts it, she met her husband, who was a cowboy and into natural horsemanship, which changed her life. Change is beautiful. But I don't trust people. So it's like, really, I've never deviated from who I am since I came out of the womb. Okay. This is who I've been my whole life. And I've tried certain things, but never to the extent that I tolerated any level of abuse or harsh treatment. I never have been like that. And so my question to everyone is, where are your balls? I'm seriously, you want a softer approach, then don't be learning from all these other people just because you're desperate to ride or you're desperate to learn, or what is your motivation? Really, what is your motivation? And why aren't we speaking up about all this abuse out there that happens every freaking day in 99% of our boarding barns? I hear it all the time. I hear it from my closest friends and students. about they have to board their horse. This is the nicest barn they have, and this shit's still going on. The way they lunge them, the way they punish the horse, you know. And it's, even if it isn't to the extremes of what we're dealing with today, it is horrific. You wouldn't do it to your cat, your dog, or your child, or you certainly would be deemed abusive. And people would, why do people speak up and stand up for dogs, cats, and children, and yet they can't do it for the horse? There's this real big divide, real big divide. Do we have a question?
Yes, a couple of them. I think you told me this already, but I can't remember the name. What bitless bridle do you recommend?
I don't. So if you guys are going to ask about bitless bridles, I don't recommend any one kind, because not all fit horses. And like yesterday when I was talking about Dr. Cook's, his is not universal. Maybe it's changed in the last few years, but when I tried it years ago, it's a one size and it doesn't fit all horses. And so not every horse is ready for a bitless bridle. And I talk about that on my YouTube video with Lovey that I made 6 years ago. We start every horse out. I always do. And I could never change from using a soft rope halter and lead rope. I could stay with that the rest of my life, all the way up through the upper level. And I'll be getting my horses back in shape and showing all of you guys that at the beginning of next year. But if you do choose to go to a bitless bridle, you have to make sure your horse is safe, because we just talked about it yesterday. So you can email me, and I do have a list of the ones that I've used and recommend, but you need to make sure your horse isn't going to plow through that type of headgear, because they got to be prepared for this. It's sad. It's really sad. They have to be prepared for bitless, because they've only known bits unless you've started them as a baby. So just to sum up, Sarah, you know, the confusion and the heartbreak and the mixed messages is because so many people out there are bullshitting you and purposely manipulating you with words. It's no different than politics. You know, stop listening to it could be in anything, your advertisements, your marketing. Stop listening to the talk and see if they can walk. Okay? See if they can do what they're talking about. And so we get lured in, easily seduced and lured in because of our own issues. We're not honest with ourselves about what we want and need. And I've been there to some extreme. You know, I've been on the fast track. And when I came back into horses, especially, but I was on a fast track, and I really, thank God to my horses, I listened, and thank God my horses, you know, they were my best teachers to tell me, you really just keep slowing down, Caroline, and stop pushing so hard. You know, why do you, I just wanted it so bad. So I understand that. I wanted it so bad. And I wanted to change my life and do what I wanted to do and make a living out of it and all of that. So you just have to check yourself, you know, what's your motivation to take a lesson? Yes, to do your training. And is it really coming from the heart because you really want to spend time with a horse? Or if it is, then why are you taking lessons with people that are using bits and spurs and whips? And, you know, you just got to think about that. You got to answer that yourself. I know I can't. Yes, I'll keep taking some questions and then we'll show some videos.
Do you feel most of these folks just don't know any better, Jennifer?
You know, Jennifer, that's a great question. No, I don't. And I'll say it coming from, so let me repeat your question. Jennifer asked, do I think most of these folks just don't know any better? I think 75% of them do know better. I think that they are caught up in the trap. There's so much competition, and especially through the internet, through social media, as I've mentioned many times, you know, including myself. We're now doing all these Facebook sponsored ads to promote and sell our online courses, and everybody else is jumping on board naturally to do the same thing. So everybody's competing with each other. And when you start competing as a business, it doesn't matter what your business is, unless you have a strong referral and a strong base. And, you know, a lot of people are going to be stealing other people's ideas, their language. They're going to do whatever they can to take your clients away. And in that case, 75% of your strong education, they haven't really studied with anybody. And so they're just like, oh my gosh, this person has all these views or subscribers. You know, why are they so popular? Well, I'm going to take their language and I'm going to create my own promotion and get people to come in. That is predominant. And then you do have the few out there. I mentioned before, you know, you've got the few very popular clinicians and trainers out there that really do know their stuff. But it's very linear too. It's they know what they know. Doesn't mean, you know, like I think Stacey Westfall is a wonderful person. I've met her when I was a clinician. Her horses were stalled next to mine on several occasions. Lovely. I love what she does. And I think she's fabulous at what she does because she cares and she's got a great approach, but she specializes in reining, and she does. And of course she can go bridleless and bareback. And we've seen, you know, plenty of that with her. It's beautiful, but she doesn't do what I do and doesn't make it right or wrong. I'm just saying, I think she's great. But if you're looking, you know, for what I provide, then it's going to be completely different. And so basically what I'm saying is if you go to her for reining, or if you go to Warwick Schiller, who I think is a fabulous guy too, you go to them, you know, you're going to get, they know their stuff. They know what they know. They don't know what they don't know. I come at it very differently as a pioneer. You know, I come at it very nonlinear and very wide scope of information. And mostly about the horse. You know, how can we develop the horse in such a way that it doesn't compromise the horse, and develop them from the ground to riding, and in every way, okay, so that it doesn't compromise them. So I think because of what my method is all about, it enables me to have a much broader spectrum of information available, more so than a lot of other really great trainers out there. Like I just said, you know, they're more linear in what they're providing, you know? So I think, you know, I'll bring up Pirelli because I think, and I've said this before, I know that Linda and Pat Pirelli's hearts are in the right direction. I think Pat Pirelli started the revolution years ago with natural horsemanship. And thank God, because it changed a lot, you guys, in a good way. But there's another situation where, you know, I do believe that there's been some manipulation with language to compete and to stay on top with the masses, as far as we've got the best program. It's all about connection, learn how to connect with your horse, learn yada, yada, yada. And believe me, I think their message is beautiful. When I read what they have out today, I'm like, oh man, I want that too. Haha, I know. But I was there once, and for all the same reasons, you guys. That's why I joined them so many years ago in the beginning when I got back into horses, because out of everyone that I knew, they had the most to offer. And I was completely disillusioned, disheartened, and very, they did not offer what they said they would. And that's most people. That's marketing. It's everywhere. It's in every freaking commercial ad you guys see. Pay attention. It's all about getting you excited. It's some little ploy and emotional twist to get you to buy in. You can call it smoke and mirrors. Yep, so that's at least 75%. Yeah, at least. And I'm going to say, you know, as much as I talk about the great dressage masters, and there's more than just Nuno, you don't have to train with a bit. I will be showing that next year with second to schooling again. But there are some European trainers out there. Look at what, the French guy, Cavalier, Pignon, what's his name, that's got all the white horses. And I mean, he's just one of many, and he's been around for 25, 30 years. And they started Cavalier. And so, you know, there's many of them out there that are teaching horses all these beautiful upper level maneuvers without compromising them and giving them 100% voice. It's beautiful.
Norman Latourelle?
Oh yeah, that's one. Yep, that's one. Thank you. And Francois Pignon, something like that. But yeah, all good stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and just go through some of this. We don't have much time as usual. Let me get out. I'm sorry. Anybody have any other questions before? I know that I've got to open up the video first and then get back to, yeah, Frederic. Yes, thank you. Frederic is right. Where am I? Yeah, but then it's like impossible. Once I get here, I can't get my screen smaller. Let me see here. Oh, there we go. I need Ebron. Hold on, guys. I'm just getting this in mini view. So no, I don't want mini view, but I don't want it big. So let me see if I can. There we go. Now I can adjust it. I couldn't get out of that. All right, much better. Give me 1 sec and I'm going to share my screen. This is the right video, right? Yep. We've got a bunch of them. All right. Awesome. Hang on. Screen share. There we go. You guys will be able to see it. Okay. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to fast forward past, let's start with the, give me 1 sec. You don't want to listen to her. Let's start with our hard to saddle horse who, and this guy, yep, hobbles. So here we go. All right. This is horrible.
I highly recommend you don't do this at home. It's extreme cases. This horse here is very, very cinchy.
So this is extreme cases, and this horse is very, very cinchy, he says. Let me see if I can get the volume up, and let me go to my computer. I'm at 100%, so sorry, can't go any louder.
Tied it for almost 3 hours yesterday. And
had him tied for almost 3 hours yesterday. So this is all about breaking the will of the horse, you guys. And as I've mentioned before, Cowboy, this young girl, the blogger that has all the subscribers, who's an equine advocate, Raleigh something. She's awesome, who I talked about earlier. Thank you, Karen, for introducing me to her. She has black and white photos of the cowboys riding these broncs. And these horses, if you watch the rodeos today, those bucking horses don't even look like these photos. The athleticism in these wild horses that these cowboy ranchers would lasso up, and 3 of them would be jumping on this horse like a wild lion, throw the saddle on, throw the horse down. They rode him till they broke him. So this is just a diffusion, not a diffusion. This is a dilution of that. There's many of them out there, you know. So just because a guy is going slow and he pets the horse and he's taking his time, he is abusing the horse. He is manhandling the horse. It's just disguised a little better than someone who's just more obvious and transparent, like this total asshole that was basically killing these mules during training.
At the end of the 3 hours, she blew up and busted and crashed into the walls.
Oh, isn't that nice? At the end of, okay, this is lovely. So this horse is hobbled because he's going to tell you how bad yesterday went, the day before, when he had him tied for 3 hours. So let's just listen to this again. I'm going to put the mic up to my computer.
I highly recommend you don't do this at home. It's for extreme cases. This horse here is very, very cinching. We had him tied up for almost 3 hours yesterday, and the walls. You hobble your horse. You don't teach him to move with hobbles. You teach him to stand with hobbles.
Submission.
So it's kind of extreme to hobble the
Horse isn't even paying attention to him.
It's a little safer than hobbling the fronts, where a horse can put a hind foot through the hobble, maybe fall down. But never.
This idiot makes this kind of thing acceptable, you guys, or gives people, the wrong idea that this is how you handle it.
Reassure her, nothing's here to hurt her.
And that's a mare.
Feel bad for picking up her seat.
Mare's got more fight in them than a gelding. Mare's got more fight in them than a stallion, you guys. They protect their babies.
We'll just go ahead and flog her with the pad.
They are mamas. Absolutely horrible. Now, I'm going to stop it here. We don't know why this mare is like this, though. You know, I don't have a background on her. I don't know if she's fresh and being started or if she's been started before. You know, you don't know. I can promise you, well, one, I would never do this to the horse, but that in knowing what to do. Oh my God, this is horrible. It's just giving people the wrong information and permission to do this shit. And you can't tell me that that horse is not giving itself burns where it's being hobbled. You put yourself in that position and be kicking that hard. You're rope burning yourself right there. Horse is going to be in pain. I mean, it could ruin the horse for life, physically. But he's not mean. Look how nice he's being. He's so soft-spoken and patient and calm. And so this idiot thinks he's doing good. This is, yeah. So you can't, it's all about your level of consciousness. And you can't really raise consciousness. You know, you can't until the person becomes self-aware. Until he looks at himself and thinks that this is a problem, he will not change. You can change. Lots of people change. But it takes a level of awareness, which is the same as having a level of consciousness. And he doesn't. Because he's still doing the same old shit all over his YouTube channel.
Build her confidence up here.
Build her confidence. No, the horse is just learning to tolerate. Why? This is horrible. I wouldn't even be saddling this horse. See, in my method, you have to have permission to get on. Well, you got to have permission for everything. It ain't just about getting on. And anything that the horse is afraid of, you learn to make that thing a positive experience, which changes everything. So touching the horse ain't gonna help, dude. Horse isn't even looking at you. Horse doesn't even care. Horse is just tolerating what you're doing because it knows it can't escape.
Saddle through it.
I mean, who's to say this horse, one, we don't know its history, could have ulcers. It could be wild and just be more feral, more instinctive. The self-preservation mode is just a lot stronger. I've had one of those. Took a year and a half. And then one of my dear friends, and much older, bought this horse wild after I gentled it and gelded him. He was a stallion. Can be done. But everybody's got something to prove, or they're on a time constraint, or you got to make money. Yeah, believe me, as soon as that horse isn't hobbled anymore, it's going to go right back to going nuts. It's not even thinking about what he's doing. The horse is totally preoccupied, and that's a bad sign.
Rebecca said this guy was called out by a horse magazine writer, if she can recall.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Rebecca just answered Atilia. This guy was called out by a horse magazine writer, if I recall.
Oh, good. I'm glad he was called out. Good. This shit needs to be shut down. There's got to be some kind of ethical code around. There is for dogs and cats. You know, I pay monthly to the SPCA worldwide for the, I can't talk about it, I'll start crying, but especially in Asia, no offense here, but how they take all the dogs and cats off the streets and steal your dogs and cats and put them in cages, and then they cook them up and they torture them. And they stick electric prods in their genitals and their anus until they die. Yeah, I belong to that movement. Why aren't we doing this shit? We got to do more. We got to do more. And I don't mean just give money to your rescues. We have to have a voice. We have to start something.
I will understand you then.
Let her stand. She didn't even give a shit about you, you idiot. The minute she knows she's free, she is gonna be setting you up.
Get you right off again.
Desensitizing at its finest. All right, let's just see where he gets with this. On and off, on and off. Yeah. Okay, here he is again.
So now we'll kind of see if she thinks she's hobbled or not. We'll kind
So
of
he
ask.
took the hobbles off,
She kind of
and
feels
she's
those
stepping up,
hobbles there a little bit there. She knows she's
figuring out she doesn't have them.
there. You go.
She's beautiful.
Mhm.
All right, enough of him. Let's go to the next one.
We got Julie's horse about a lot of different things, and we can kind of start in on here.
Another beautiful horse.
Kind of convincing that
So he's trying to convince this gelding to go over all of this. That's it. Just keep putting pressure on him.
kind of sending back and forth there until he gets quiet.
So there's no acknowledgement why this goes wrong. So I was taught this too, you guys, and by Natural Horsemanship, specifically Pirelli, by more than one certified instructor, and because it never felt right to me, and there wasn't anything else out there. And so while I was learning and studying, I'm like, well, I'll just try another instructor, and by many, okay, many, like at least my hand here, 5. And so what happens though is any horse that has an extreme behavior like that mare did with cinching or saddling, or a horse that's just really reactive and spooky and unconfident and won't try anything or do an obstacle course, those are extreme behaviors. And we need to start separating them and acknowledging and educating that that's extreme stuff. And when you have that kind of an extreme state of mind in your horse, there is no learning. So everything these guys teach you is to wear your horse down. It's just a power struggle. And it never felt right to me. And I had those extreme horses. And then of course I was working with rescues to keep learning, and they all had triggers, huge triggers. So that's a big thing I want to, point out right now is this. In a perfect world, your horse would just be curious. In a perfect world, wait till you see our video on Friday, where we go back to the round pen with the scary bag and the scary tarp with Blue and Lovey. And I could have cried because they both, especially Blue, because it's been a year since we've done anything with the bag and the tarp, but I have made the bag a good experience, the shopping bag, by putting carrots in it all the time. And so I've changed their association and experience with that scary noise. Doesn't mean if the bag doesn't blow past them, they're not going to flip out. That still happens. But when I'm there, they're so connected to me and asking for reassurance, as well as considering me, that they're not going to run me down or take off with me. And so there is such a different way of going about this. If your horse can't handle what they should be able to handle. And unfortunately, because all of us inherit horses with issues, we don't know any better. And then all the idiots out there, they don't know any better either, or they don't care. And so they're just force your horse, force your horse, force your horse. And it's still a form of mental and physical abuse because you're mentally and physically freaking wearing the horse out. And you would be connected and you would have a conversation and you would be reassuring them and you'd be building your trust and confidence during this whole process. So that's why when you are a mastery membership student, especially when you join the big program, there's no obstacle course. Obstacle course is a test, but we don't work with an obstacle course. Everything you're doing, all the exercises are either to peel away the layers of trauma and defense in the horse or to build the horse and develop them. But when you peel away the trauma and the layers, you're also able to rebuild them so that when you get to these tests, how does your horse show up and what do you do with that information? It's just to wear them down. There's no connection. The horse isn't looking. Pay attention to this especially because when we get to my video, and we're just going to go quickly through it. Remember, this is all going to be up on YouTube. So you guys can go look at this screen sharing and look at all of this, in your own time. But the same way, I couldn't even get 30 feet to any of the obstacles in my obstacle course with the horse that I'm going to show you with me. And he either froze or he panicked because he was pushed like this. So, and this is like 30 to 60 days into retraining with him. And then we test it. We test him at the obstacle. I test him and we leave the obstacle course. Then we have to go back to the exercises. Why? Because the exercises that I designed specifically are all about helping the horse trust and re-regulate, trust and re-regulate. What do I mean by re-regulate? I've talked about this over and over again in my podcast. Re-regulate their nervous system, go from the sympathetic state, which is survival only, to the parasympathetic, which is relaxation. But you're also teaching them to think. So there's exercises that develop the brain games this whole time. Because you can't just do one thing. You got to do all of this. So the horse is learning to think, learning to trust more, and learning to, with it, relax more. So the parasympathetic, soon they'll be able to switch easily themselves and self-regulate. It's really that simple, but it's not that easy. Because you got to learn when your horse tries 20 million different things, because that's how it's survived with these idiots. And it's become so defensive, you've got to learn those 20 million different ways of helping your horse go back to the building blocks. But no horse is learning here. This is not learning, you guys. Learning only happens when the horse is in a learning frame of mind. And that shows up when they are connected and relaxed, just like us. This horse is on survival mode. He's just here to let it wear itself out. And then he's going to pat himself on the back and say, yep, I'm training this horse. Nope, the horse is just either tired or learning how tight the horse is. The horse isn't looking at him. Horse is just trying to figure out, man, what can I do to get this idiot to leave me alone and stop making me go over this damn if the horse really accepted this. You're going to see it in the next video. So let's just move on because we're running out of time. Well, the horse did look. He did look at the tarp there, but he's going to go through a bunch of other things. And this video is a cinchy horse. Oh, Lord, that's a whole nother story.
That one was awful. I mean, they all are, but him getting on that horse.
And then we're not even going to have time for this or the next one, this poor little horse. Let me just train your eye. Let's just get to me with Mooney. So this is a long video and it's free and it's on my YouTube channel, but we chopped it up just to get to some of the most relevant points. So this is part of my obstacle course. Rebecca remembers this. And thinking and connected, not totally, because you don't see him totally. He's about 50% there. And spooking himself. But you see how I gently guide him. And I don't want a horse running around. I'm not here to exhaust him. He would run. So this is huge progress. And I talk all about this in the video. It's huge progress for him to eat, to walk, to check in with the obstacle. He was taught if he didn't accept something that he was going to be run, worn out. That's why a lot of our horses, when they go in the round pen, they just start running. So I'm very patient. I'm doing, all my energy, reconnect, good boy, lots of positive. And I don't really need to keep getting into it, but you see him go through all of this. He goes through all of it. And every time he goes to escalate, either pick up speed or avoid it, I interrupt it, I shut it down, give him some time to think, process, reconnect. And this is a really tough horse. He only had 90 days with me, and the owner just didn't get it. She ended up selling him back to the trainer that she bought him from. And when I first saw a video of this very expensive, well-bred Arabian sport horse that was bred and trained, I think he's only 5 in this video, trained for reining and competition in Florida here, he could look like he knew where his head was supposed to be set. And he would just get in that set frame because they tie him down when they train him. And so the rider would be on a loose rein, right? On a loose rein, loping him. Oh, here he is. I'm loping him between the trees and out in the pasture. And this horse was on total autopilot. There was nobody home. So I'm looking at this steady lope. Guy's got the loose rein. The horse has got that typical headset, which is totally created. It's not natural. But to a naive woman coming back to horses and not doing her homework, and of course she wanted an expensive, beautiful horse, how she ended up with me is a whole nother story. And then the work was just too hard. I'm like, he needs a lot more time and a lot more money. And it took her having an accident on him after I specifically told her when I went away on vacation, Jen, who's often on our podcast, Rebecca knows Jen. I told Jen was house sitting with the girls because Deco was with us. And I told the owner, do not ride him while I'm gone. What did she do? When the day I left, she got on him by herself, didn't even ask for any supervision because he was still a spooky horse and she didn't even know how to ride, you guys. So he would scare her and she had no balance. He ends up taking off, rides him down in this area with the gate wide open. This is a 2-acre training field. Round pen is to the left, gate wide open. He bolts back to the barn, almost runs into the side of the barn. This barn's huge, 30 stalls. You can drive a semi in it and unload hay. It's so big. Runs and unloads her right into the front wall of the barn. So busts her fake implant. Sorry, had to laugh on that. Bust her all up though. And she's lucky she didn't get more hurt, but she's done with the horse. But she loved this horse. Oh, she kissed him and she cried and it was disgusting. I'm glad I'm done with all that. The shit I've had to put up with, I tell you, it's why not doing it anymore. So I'm just shaking the rope to shut him down because he's lips tight and he's just going back into his frenzy. Sometimes it's kind of like smacking a hysterical person. Knock it off, wake up. I don't want to be that rough, but he ain't thinking. So the horse went back to the original trainer and they couldn't do any more than what they had done with them before. So he basically just became a pasture. He's not a trail riding horse, nothing. And it just needed a lot more time, like maybe a year. You know, you got to realize, and it took years for me to get Smokey, 2 years to be able to canter on Smokey. 2 years to get the buck out of Sundance. So I never rode without a saddle. I mean, this shit can take time, and it needs to take time because these horses are so messed up. Now, Moon wasn't abused, and you know, the training is tough, definitely. He goes through everything. There's probably 20 different obstacles that I used to have. So I'm just looking for him to get comfortable. I love that he keeps checking in with me. Just get familiar with this stuff because this is new for him. And this is probably the second month. We're testing. And this is not at all big reaction. This is, I mean, for me, this is fine, but I'm not here to ride a horse through anything. You know, I want this horse to be completely relaxed and willing and okay with everything before I ride them through it. So there's a lot of us out there that can ride a horse through this, including me. His owner couldn't, or she would have. That would have been another, you know, notch for her. And that's really what she wanted, but she sucked ass as a rider. And there was no ability of self-awareness in this woman to change. But yeah, a lot of these asshole trainers can just ride the shit out of these horses. But not everybody can, nor should you. So that's another reason why this horse would never have lasted with that owner, because she couldn't ride it either. This owner's husband real quick. You guys will like this story. And, you know, you're going to ride. Let's see. Hopefully you guys can still see me. You're going to ride bareback with my horses. So her husband, who also grew up with horses and was a nice guy, and he's going to ride Sundance. Remember, I just said it took 2 years to get the buck out of Sundance. And he goes to get on, and he's a short fella. He goes to get on her from the mounting block, and he literally leaps on her and then wraps his calves around her and squeezes her. And what does she do? She's like mortified because he looked like a predator, like a cat on her. And she's completely relaxed. Gave him permission to get on her back. And meanwhile, I've already talked to him, his daughter and his wife, you know, they were embarrassed. You know, we've just said, because we knew him, you know, so-and-so, don't jump on any, you know, this horse specifically. This was the only other horse I had for him to ride. Oh, I got it, you know, does it, squeezes her. So Sundance starts a little buck, nothing crazy. Believe me, nothing crazy. And he goes flying off. Because he ends up, real quick, he ends up on her kidneys. Sorry, I forgot the major point. He ends up on her kidneys, not on her, by her withers. So she's just like, what the F? You know, bam, he's like on her like this, thrown forward, on her kidneys, squeezing her. So she gives him a little boop, boop, boop. He goes off the side and his gun pops out of his shorts. We never saw the gun because he was in shorts, well, which is fine if you're riding in a bareback pad. So, oh my God, she went off on him. Trust me, she went, all due respect, did like her, you know. This method was just way too hard. But yep, she starts screaming. So anyway, that's the end of my story, y'all. Let me mute my phone real quick. And anybody have any questions? No?
A lot of sharing.
A lot of sharing.
Mhm.
So keep sharing, you guys. Do what you can to be an advocate of the horse in every which way. And the major thing I want to say is don't get defensive and don't make anybody defensive when you are. Don't get in their face about it, because you'll just turn people off, and people will, all of us, immediately get defensive. And what happens when we're defensive? We don't hear you anymore.
Mhm.
We don't hear you anymore. So don't attack people. If you're going to do this, be smart. All right. And actions speak louder than words. And that's why it's like, if we all got together and formed this big group, you know, or on Facebook that just brought these people, I mean, humiliate them. I mean, honestly, just humiliate them. And they may not even be humiliated. I guess humiliation means you care. So maybe they wouldn't even be humiliated, but we brought this to attention. It doesn't have to be this way. So yeah. All right. So listen, real quick, a couple of announcements. We will not be podcasting next week. We're taking the week off for Thanksgiving of podcasting, and we are not going to be podcasting in December. None. We are for now, just in December. Yeah, we're not going to. So we can start the year fresh. We've got some new ideas, and we need that time in December to enjoy the holiday and to catch up on a lot of other coursework. So believe it or not, these podcasts are a lot of work. I love them. I could do them every day. That's why we started, I think, 3 or 4 days. And then I'm like, oh my God, I can't. But it takes time to, I mean, I have so much information, but I still have to write stuff, or I have to find stuff. And Sabrina's got to, if we're screen sharing, have time to put it all together. So we're going to take a break. And that leaves an opportunity, as always, for you guys to email us with your ideas. Like, hey, Caroline, what can we talk about this? Can we talk about that? And one of my, for sure, ideas starting in January is to invite my current students to actually participate in some interviewing, whether they interview me or, you know, I just start interviewing them. I think it would be add some spice to everything too. So you guys aren't always looking at us, and you see some other people on here talking about their experiences and asking questions. I'm always open to interviewing anyone. I am not very open to interviewing other equine professionals in any equine field. I think you guys know why, because a lot of them just don't do a good enough job. So I love my 2 vets, and, you know, I'm okay with my current farrier. But there's other equine people. I'm just really particular. I've been around you guys long enough, and I'm such an ardent student and learner that I've spent at least 10 years absorbing so much. And there's not a lot of people I trust in this industry at all. So I don't want their support, and I'm not here to support them. I think y'all know that by now. But remember, this is everything horses and more. So we can talk about a lot of things. It doesn't always have to be about horses. We can dive in deep spiritually and talk about books, and because to me, it all transfers over. You know, our horsemanship is at this level, this way, is a lifestyle. It's a choice, and it reflects and transfers over into the rest of our lives. So, all right, we will be in touch. Thank you. God bless all of you. Love you guys. And may you always be one with your horse. Mwah. Until next year.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye.